Hey guys, it's Dr. Brandie with another episode of Pregnancy Pain Sucks. I have one of my friends, longtime friends, Melissa Lucchesi, on this call from Moon Sage Mama, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her. I'm so excited to talk to her today, and I think you guys are getting a lot of value out of this. So, Melissa, you're up.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm Melissa. I've been in the birth world for the past 8 years. I was originally trained fertility, birth, and postpartum, and threw myself into birth work. Um, I had been in the trauma world for over 2 decades, doing local and national trainings and counseling and some legislative stuff. So I knew when I got into the birth world that needed to be the focus. And I thought, my gosh, I'm not going to find many clients because people don't like to talk about the heavy things that they carry into birth and postpartum. And I was wrong. So I've expanded into an agency model, and we operate under the idea that we're all carrying things from our past and heavy things into the experience of birth and into our postpartum experience. So let's just give it a seat in the room and not pretend it's not there.
Yeah, you have an upcoming talk, right? You told me, and I love the title. Vicky, you can tell everybody what the title of your talk is about the elephant in the room.
Yes. So my talk is called "The Elephant in the Birth Bag" because we are, it will be given at the Babies and Bumps conference in the Valley Forge Sheraton in July. And it's just talking about that. Like, we're all carrying something from a prior birth, from fertility trauma, from a trauma history, or from like not a great growing up, maybe not a great experience with our families. We're all carrying something with us. And if we don't look at it, it's under the rug. It's this huge thing that we're just trying to like, oh, don't focus on it. And it's there. But if we give it some space, take a deep breath and hold it together and remind ourselves that this is different birth, different baby, different postpartum, that we can be well supported and still have this thing that's has a chair in the room. That's a normal thing. We're complicated people with complicated histories. We don't
Yeah,
go into birth and postpartum clean
that's
slate.
so important because I think that the reason both of us are attracted to this arena is because we want to feel safe. We want other people to feel safe. We haven't felt exactly safe in our lives. Not to speak for you, but I think a lot of women that are drawn to this want it to be good for someone else because it wasn't for us. And I think we see that over and over and over again. And when I teach, I talk a lot about sexual assault or people going through some really deep ingrained patterns where they think um, you have different thoughts and you've never felt this way. I call it a temporary normal. When you're pregnant, it's an extended period of time. It's almost a year. What are some of the things that you see when people contact your agency? Contact your agency. What are some things that they say that off the bat of like, hey, my partner didn't act in a way that was really supportive last time, or I don't feel supported in my life? What are some of the things you hear, Melissa, when somebody hires your agency for the birth?
Yeah, I think it's a mix. I would say that probably at least a third of people come in almost immediately, like at the consult. Um, and they talk about either having a trauma history and recognizing that that might come up in the space, mentioning that that is something that, oh, I saw that you're trauma informed and that really resonates with me. And maybe they don't share too much. Um, or they talk about a prior birth trauma where they're carrying this stuff, or a fertility journey. And so I think when people have, like, they know that there's an in because they see that I share my own bits of my own story on my website. I'm fairly open book about it. Um, and I think when you give people space, they want to talk about these things and recognize them. And then I would say that there's another at least third that it eventually comes up in the prenatal stuff. Working together, it starts to come out. And then there's probably a third that really, they either say that there's nothing, like, I'm really grateful that I'm not carrying anything like that, But we talk about the range of experience and what that might mean, even if it's just like, I'm just anxious because this is new to me. I have no frame of reference. It's all relevant. And whether, we don't need details, people don't need to share the whole story to operate through this trauma informed lens.
Yeah, some people don't need to be forced to bear their traumas or whatever, but you can really tell something is okay, is not okay. And it's really, you visited my office before and hung out with me. And I think in the space, you hear some stuff that is not um, normal in a normal practice where you would disclose, like, hey, I'm really anxious about this. I'm really not feeling like I should have gotten pregnant again because look at what this has done. And giving people a space to be able to say those things, even if in the moment it's just from overwhelm. I think not judging them, I think that's really, really important because what I'm finding out is that, like, even though we have thoughts, they're not exactly facts, if that makes any sense. You can have thoughts in the moment that come up and you can rationally say, I know that doesn't make sense, but this is how I'm feeling. Does your agency help with that or facilitate that? Or do you work with therapists around of helping facilitate getting women support?
Yeah, so I vet well, like, I shadowed you for an entire day. I want, and then I've sought services as well because I want to know the people that I'm referring, that they are safe containers for whatever is going to come up. And then when the doulas that work for Moon Sage Mama understand that there may be some extra stuff. Maybe people are going to share a difficult birth story or things like that, where it's like, I'm happy and I love my baby, but I regret it. Yes. And not freak out about it or not make them feel weird. Yeah. Or I'm having some intrusive thoughts. Okay. Yeah. And let's talk about that. And then where can we refer? So being able to just hold that space for whatever's coming up and recognize it's just part of a range of experiences. It's nothing to be, helping people see it's nothing to be ashamed of, and that it makes sense that in birth and postpartum, things are going to come up. Things from your past or your present are going to be, unearthed.
What's some of the best advice you could give a partner during the birth to feel like they're helping? Because I've delivered 10 babies. I've been in a lot of birth rooms as a paramedic. So for me, I've seen a range of somebody being completely annoying and at the top, like, all about me, or I've seen somebody that's like totally disengaged on their phone, not engaged. What's one way that somebody could be out of the way and respecting the process, but showing up for their partner? What's your best advice for a partner in the birth room?
Yeah, I think definitely for birth, in the birth space, if the partner can, especially if there's doula support, if the partner can just be the partner, like be the partner, be a parent, this is a parent who's having a birthing day too. So stay in that role, because that is, I always say, like, the inside jokes or the sweet things or the loving touch, all of those things that a partner can offer are going to increase oxytocin. They're going to help somebody to feel better, like they can move through it. They have that, their ride or die with them. Yeah. And then leave the other stuff up to doula support. And then continue it in postpartum. Ask, like, what do you need? And recognize that, yes, it's really difficult for the partner too. So difficult. There's this additional piece of the body for the person who has given birth that's in a state of healing too. So it's mind, body, spirit for the person that gave birth. The partner recognizing that and saying, like, let me check in. What do you need? Can go a really, really long way.
Now, have you seen, so I've disclosed on a lot of my social media some of the traumatic stuff that I went through, where my ex-husband with my first birth told me I couldn't cuss. It wasn't cussing at him. I could not cuss. And if anyone knows me, My favorite word. Word. Not at people. Like that's my rule with my kids is not at people, but it's a colorful word. It's the sign of high intelligence. But like for me, I didn't realize till my 50s how traumatic that was because I was modulating his feelings and I had no idea how I would react. So it was like I was constantly scanning him being okay. So for the second birth, I attempted to get a doula and he was just not having it. Why have another strange woman in the room, a strange person? Do you see that a lot with a partner really giving somebody shit about just needing support or what's wrong with you that you need an extra person there? Like, that's the shit that I got, which what do I do what I do? But like, have you seen that where the partner sees you as competition? Like, why I'm not man enough that I can't support you? Why do you need this extra expense or somebody else? What have you seen?
Definitely. It's not. It's not.
It's hard to talk about. It's so embarrassing.
Yes, and
I
it's
feel
so.
like you're not lovable, or like, what's wrong with me that I have a partner that doesn't realize like women know women. I don't know, women know women, and this is new for both of us. It's not we're both not birth experts. Why don't we call Melissa, who is a birth expert and has seen this all the time? It just seems like common sense. But what do you see with the guys?
So a lot of times where there's hesitation with a partner, especially a male partner, overwhelmingly male partner.
We're not assuming that they're male partner. Yep.
um,
Yep. Yeah.
yeah, and they'll say like, "Could you hop on another console and I could have my husband come in or my partner come in?" And yeah, and then I talk about not having to wear all the hats and letting it be your birthing day too, Dad, and also I've had, over 230 births. And so not my first rodeo. And it is yours and let it be. You shouldn't have to be the expert and know all the things about her pelvis and the baby, the station of the baby and all the things like that. And you shouldn't have to be the one advocating in the event that there needs to be some advocacy. It's, you can just, you could be dad, be the partner. It's when then there have been like a handful of times where it's risen to the level of like not like dad really just pushing back in the birth space after we're already working together or um, not wanting a doula at a C-section if it shifts in that direction because it needs to just be me or I need to be the one.
That's so because in the moment, the mom, it creates awkwardness that doesn't, instead of supporting the woman who's the one that's getting cut or having themselves torn apart, they have to be the star of the show and show they're in control of the whole situation, which makes it awkward. And for a lot of women, including myself, you're just like, just go, even you're so embarrassed. I can't even tell you the level of embarrassment that I've sustained over so many years, but you're just sort of like, whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? And then you feel horrible because like you had a place there, you were helping, if that makes any sense. And it makes it so selfish. I understand the thing that I'm learning. I wrote a book called For Partners. What I'm learning or understanding from therapy and other men who have been like that is it's when they lose control, they don't act their best self. This is all new for them too, if that makes any sense. So if I can look at it with empathy of like they thought they were protecting, their partner or whatever. I think it mostly comes from a good place. It just comes out a little stressful. So
yeah. And how many times, like, it's so difficult to just stand firm in what we need, especially in this really fragile space of birth.
You're vulnerable. Like, you're totally just giving birth, and then you have to modulate some adult, man, their feelings. And I've seen that in practice too, where somebody's in so much pain. I had a woman that could barely walk, and the guy is on his phone. And he's like, "Can you fix her already?" And I'm like, dude, like it makes you sad. I think stuff like that makes me sad because it doesn't always have to be about the woman, but she's doing such amazing stuff by, like growing this baby and all that kind of stuff to not support her. But the partners also need to be supported. And that's what you do as a doula is help, right? Support that. The best way I think that I've seen, that I've heard from my patients that you guys are invaluable, is afterwards, because a lot of people don't know how to help. And I think a lot of people almost make things worse when they try to help, because they're like, what do you want me to do? Or, and I know for myself personally, like, I'm a person that I would never be like, can you help me with this? Or
Mhm.
you need somebody that knows the stuff. So Melissa, what's your best advice, or what do you see afterwards when you guys are hired for postpartum support and being helpful, of either if you're a partner or your services, what would that do for a woman so that she could get some sleep?
Yes, and that's that. I always say that's like such a cornerstone for mental health. Like we need a long stretch, like a 4 hour stretch. Who postpartum is getting a 4 hour stretch? So it's just not happening. So baseline mental health is struggling. So when you can have somebody come in, I always encourage my doulas to look, just scan the room. What is something that if we're there Monday, Wednesday, Friday overnight, how can Tuesday and Thursday and the weekend go smoothly when we're not there? And there's so many baby tasks that have been thrown onto the healing process and just existing as a person. Now you are keeping a human alive. You have to deal with feeding, and then there's all the baby tasks. So, like offloading that, it's really hard for people. It's really hard for women, and then you add on now your mom, and that's like this overwhelming identity where you're not somehow not supposed to have needs,
Mhm.
and not supposed to receive help and support. I always encourage on the consults that I do with postpartum families, get a little whiteboard, write down whatever you need to about, ask the doula, and then write down a couple things that this week would be really helpful
Mhm.
um, to address. Baby laundry, washing the pump parts, changing baby sheets, stocking the diaper bag, like just some things that are going to help take that mental load, that invisible load off, the extra stuff, um, and have it there. Also, if you have a hard time and you're still unable to do that, that still feels kind of weird or foreign to you, my doulas are going to say, listen, how can I help you? What are
Yeah.
the things? It's okay to ask me. I
Yep.
want you to feel comfortable with this, and really encourage that relationship where it's a hired situation. This is the hired village, so it's a little bit easier to lean into, but not always. And then for the people that are coming in, like the either partner, but also family members, friends, you don't need baby holders. Yes, everybody wants to hold the baby. Everybody wants to see and talk about the baby. But recognizing first that overwhelmingly birth, you don't come out of birth unscathed. And even if it goes like incredibly well, there's still some feels that people have. So not just being like, oh, how'd the birth go? And expecting this like beautiful sunshine and buttercups. You might be opening a Pandora's box and knowing like, okay, I'm going to hold space for that. And then also like going in and specifically saying, I'm coming to visit you and your baby. Can I pick up groceries on the way or bring a meal? Or when I get there, like, can I unload your dishwasher or throw in a load of laundry? Let me do something.
Or I'm going to do that. Like, because I
I'm
think
gonna.
I'll be like, no, 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 that's okay. Um, but like, I think the other thing, like, I see thousands of pregnant women, and like, I've never heard them complain of somebody actually trying to help. What I hear more of is their mom or their friend coming over to hold the baby, ask what's for lunch, which just kills me. And not like help take your 3-year-old to the park, or like play with the other child, like all the stuff you're guilty with that you can't do. I think it's taking, there's a line, but I had interviewed Jackie Kelleher from Make It Grand, and she has this deck of cards of having these conversations, because you don't know, and having the conversation like, what's the best way you can help me? It feels so selfish to say this, but it's not you're not helping a mom. I'm going to say really clearly, you're not helping a mom by holding her baby.
Yes.
or coming over to sit, because she has to find something for you to do, and now she has to navigate your stuff on top of everything else, and she's probably
Mhm.
tired and needs to sleep. So if there's anybody who can help facilitate that, if she has less stuff to do, I think by doing the dishes or getting groceries or bringing over a meal, that's where it's at, is like actual help as opposed to baby
Mhm.
holders, like you said.
Yeah, and not being an additional burden,
Yeah.
like not not coming over
Entertain,
on.
entertain me. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, sometimes like I know I wanted that social aspect in the postpartum as a solo parent. I was like, oh gosh, people. I need like people around.
Mhm.
But the people who would show up unasked, uninvited, and bring their
Oh, it's
children,
long. And bring, oh yeah, they bring their kids.
oof, like these little. Yeah, no, that's not what we do.
Oh, the stuff we've heard. Yeah. What's one thing that you would say that people don't know about doulas? Like what would you say is like a common misconception with doulas?
Yeah, I think like the two biggest things. So the biggest for birth is that it's like only if you're having this like super crunchy home water birth, that's the only time like you need a doula. And I support intended c-sections. um, I support people who probably 50% say I'm probably going to get an epidural. Great, no shame in that game, like your body.
It's yeah,
Right, and like
yeah.
yeah.
If somebody does and they don't, that's their birth. They get to pick. Yeah.
And then there's so it's and I always say like we are evidence based, we're science believing, like these are the things that I need to say now. And we're going to support you, really encourage your intuition, but also help you navigate the risk benefits for things and know what to ask your provider, even in the space. So it matters extra if you're giving birth in a hospital and if you have epidural. There's still so many things to navigate. And it's not just, the crunchy, like hippie trippy sort of doulas and birth. Yes, they exist. I know doulas that don't support in hospitals.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, can we
Uh,
talk to that a little bit? Can I ask you a spicy question? Sorry.
yeah.
Like, because I think like 10 years ago, there was a lot of articles where doulas were banned from delivery rooms. And it kind of goes along the vein that we were talking about with over adventurous or overarching partners that need to make it about them. So like doulas that don't work. Like for me as a chiropractor, I will never go at somebody's provider ever, even if it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, or it's the most false thing. I will do that privately with them. I would never shit talk another OB. I would go behind the scenes, but in birth, you obviously can't do that. Do What's the way that you, is that the mentality that you have that I have with my patients, that sort of like we're going to be do what's best for you, and if that means standing down when somebody is acting in a way, like if an OB goes because they have to, like I think a lot of people don't understand delivering babies is very risky, even though it happens all the time. There's risk involved, which is why their malpractice is so high. And empathizing as an OB, I think I would be terrified if somebody tried to intercede without my training at that point. So, how do you handle situations like that in a collaborative way instead of an adversarial way on behalf of your client? I'm sorry to ask it that way, but like there's tools, they don't care. They want their philosophy, their way, and their way is the most natural way, even if it's not their clients or the doctor that is going to be at risk if something happens in a different way. I hope I asked that right. But what's your philosophy with that, Melissa?
Yeah. So I like in another world, I was an advocate, a sexual violence advocate, and would fiercely step in and advocate on behalf of clients. This is in a different way. I'm super comfortable with the advocacy, but I also get along really well with medical providers. I come from a family of tons of nurses, and I think we can all get along in the sandbox and stay in our lane. um, I have stepped in and said things at times when it's crossed the level um, where there was clear advocacy that was needed. Literally one time did I need to really be fierce with an OB because human
because for anybody who's listening to this and thinks that's complete shit, that doesn't happen. I had my water broke with my second one when she was just examining me for the first time. She didn't tell me she was breaking my water, which was excruciating. And when I called her out on it, she's like, "Oh, if I had warned you, you would have tensed up." I think consent goes a huge way and was very violating, very painful, and I did slightly kick her in the face, which I do not regret. And I don't think that I should apologize for that. I think consent is huge when it's taking care of women in a vulnerable state, especially with a crochet hook. Not so fun. But especially 6 weeks early too, like baby was not cooked or ready to come out. I had preeclampsia, so it does happen where consent is implied, and sometimes that has to happen, but in my case that didn't. There could have been a little warning on that one. But I think it's important to have people validate that. Do you know what I'm saying? Of not making too much of a big deal, or I think the last thing I want to talk about is women ignoring their needs. And I think that's huge. I think part of the thing for me with doulas over the years, these are like the most amazing women that are grounded. Like the word I think that you're looking for is grounded, if that makes any sense. They're grounded through the strength of having their own baby, and they're a resource to be able to say, no, you do matter. You do have rights. Your feelings are valid. And it's not just like kissing your ass and just patting you on the head. This shit's hard. So if you could talk to a mom that's struggling out there, either before or pregnancy or after, what would you say from the mom that you are and from what you've seen of all the moms you've taken care of over the years?
Yeah, I think like we need to make ourselves part of the equation. And I always say to moms, when you do that, it's a parenting choice. When you matter here too. You can't not matter. So, recognizing that goes a long way in how you're going to parent. You have to be part of the story here. It can't just be all about baby. Then you're losing pieces of yourself, and it's not going to be good for anybody. I know from my own experiences, I made choices to that in my birth that I was taking care of other people. I wasn't with my son's father, and my biggest regret is having him be in the room and not having my very best.
Amen.
Love, my very best
Isn't that?
friend.
But it f's with you a little bit because it's something that's so beautiful in yours, and it's ruined because it's like you don't get the ride. It's almost like if I'm on a carousel, and it's a beautiful carousel, and I'm having a great time, and you have to like pick up a penny on the floor, or like clean up somebody else's mess. Like that was my experience with pregnancy and having a baby, and I'll never get that again. And it sounds like boo-hoo, but like I think that's one thing that makes being a woman worth it. If that makes it, with all the shit we go through with periods and all that stuff, like it should be good, and we should make it good for more women. And I really thank you because you've grown so much since I met you when we were hanging out in my office, and your mission is so freaking good, and I love your services. All my clients are really happy with you guys, and I always joke that there's a thing with it, if you recover after your birth and you're pink, that's a good thing that you're taken care of well. You keep my patients pink and healthy and rested, and I really appreciate it so they can actually enjoy what should be really beautiful. I thank you for that, Melissa. So tell people where to find you.
Yes, you can go to Moon Sage Mama, Moon, SAGE, sagemama.com. Reach out. You can have a free consult. We can talk about, even if you don't know what type of support you want, let's talk about it, and let's kind of dream into what your birth and postpartum could look like, and how to make yourself part of the equation in a very well supported and empowered way.
So we're outside of Philly. What counties are you in? Get ready, buckle up. So many. Yeah.
Ready. So the greater
So impressed.
area, Delaware County, Chester County, Montgomery County, Bucks, Berks, a little bit of South Jersey, and into Delaware, like Wilmington, Newcastle-ish area. So all around. And Lancaster County.
Yay! Yeah.
Some great doulas there. So yeah, all over. Definitely reach out. Even if you think we don't serve your area, we probably do.
I'm so impressed by you. But thank you so much for being on. Sorry for the technical glitch of my computer dying. And I hope you have a great day. And thanks, you guys, for being on another episode of Pregnancy Pain Sucks. Melissa and her team can also help you have pregnancy suck less and afterwards. And I just thank you so much for being here. Have a great day, you guys.